Broadcasting live from the offices of policebackground.net. This is the Police Applicant Podcast with your host, Ken Roybal.
Hey, welcome everybody to a special episode of the Police Applicant Podcast and policebackground.net. We are here today with the founder of officerprivacy.com, Pete James. Pete, welcome to the episode.
Thanks, Ken. Thanks so much for having me on your show.
And just to give people catch them up about why we're here, is a few days ago there was a bombshell big deal that came out of LAPD, and I'll just kind of make it the short and sweet version of it. It was announced via the police department in the news that 9,200 LAPD officers' IDs and information and where they're assigned and everything was downloaded to an anti-police website. And the more as the days go by, the Los Angeles Police Protective League, the union for the police officers, said they were not aware of it until after the site had gone live. The chief of police, Michael Moore, said he was not notified that all this information had been released. There is a Police Administrator 3 that possibly, we don't know for sure, but it looks like she was the one that authorized the release of it. The Police Administrator 3 is equivalent to a civilian version of maybe a deputy chief or commander on the job. And the whole thing is that not only did they release all this information, but included in this info dump with photos was undercover officers, all the undercover officers on the department. And so people are kind of freaking out because there's already been credible threats on the internet, on Twitter and all this, from groups that are promoting violence against the police officers. Now we got your picture and all this kind of thing. And so I thought it was important. The first thing I thought of was contact officerprivacy.com, because this is what you guys do. And so before we get started, I want all the families out there and even police applicants to know that this needs to be taken care of sooner than later. And if you need an assist on how to do this, that's what we're doing here today. We're going to tell you how to do this. So I want to give a short bio on you, Pete. I'm going to go ahead and read it so I don't mess it up. But Pete James is a retired law enforcement officer and privacy specialist. He's the founder of officerprivacy.com, a company that removes officers' private information from the internet so they can feel safe. Pete is retired from law enforcement after 25 years. He's a Navy veteran. Thank you for your service, sir. A computer forensics expert and privacy specialist. The officerprivacy.com removes officers' private information from data broker websites. So we're going to get into this a little bit, Pete. And you're also a skilled open source intelligence investigator with experience investigating thousands of criminal, civil, and corporate cases. And so you come really qualified for just what we're talking about. And what can you say in opening about what officerprivacy.com? What is it exactly that you do?
Well, first, it's a shame that this data was released and that it is now openly available on the internet. And if I were one of those officers, I think you're totally justified in being outraged that this information was released. But in thinking about it, essentially what this website did is it created an online profile on your behalf that's sharing your picture, your employee ID number, the date of hire, the assignment, your current assignment. So from that, you can figure out, okay, well, it's about this old. This is about how old this person is. But it's a terrible invasion of privacy. But this isn't the only online profile that was created for you and without your permission. There are other online profiles that are exposing your home address, your date of birth, the names of your relatives. That's what we help you with. We help you remove from the internet those sites that are exposing your private information.
And I had an experience with that probably a couple of years ago where there were anti-police groups that didn't like my content on Instagram, because obviously I'm a retired police officer. I support police, and so they didn't like my content. So what they did was they blasted me on a 25,000 member Twitter account. I had my phone number online because of my business, and so I started getting phone calls. I started getting emails, and I was getting DMs on Instagram, and I had to go and try and figure out how. So I took the phone number off, but I had to take precautions and then I'm starting to think, my family, and when I start and Pete, I was shocked. I go, let me run my name. My address was coming up. My children, my wife, everybody's names was coming up. And I'm going, holy cow! It's almost like there's supposed to be laws to protect people from all these data brokers publishing your information. And I was just shocked, man, that it was all out there.
Oh, it's amazing what information is public. And to find this information, you don't need to pay any money. You don't need to create an account. It's all from a simple Google search. And what I recommend everybody do is to Google themselves. Now, I'll share some tips with you on how to quickly find the information that these sites are exposing. The way you do it is just go to Google and put your first and last name in. Now, for your first and last name, put that in quotes. So put your first and last name in quotes, and then put the city you live in, and then put the word address. So your first and last name in quotes, the city you live in, and the word address. And you're going to see dozens of sites that are showing your information. And these are sites that you're likely familiar with, but may have sites like whitepages.com, Spokeo, Truthfinder, been verified. These sites are exposing your information, and it's not. You don't have to put up with it. You don't have to just accept it. You can remove yourself from those sites, and that's what we help you with at officerprivacy.com.
Yeah, and it's a real thing, because during the 2020 riots all over the nation, I was just, and you know what, I shouldn't be shocked, but I was, because there were things that happened, police shootings or something, and then it showed the news. It was showing people were picketing, demonstrators were picketing at the police officers' homes. Mm-hmm. And I'm going, and we have a mutual friend in Matt and Christina Dagas out in California, where there was it wasn't a shooting, it was an arrest, and before Christina knew what was going on, the protesters were outside her house already. It was a total shock to her. But I just want to share also some of the things that happen. And here's some headlines. Just Pete pulled these off of the internet. But as we go through these headlines, you can see police officers' homes are targeted. Their addresses are online, and they get they find out where they live, and they will go to your house. I mean, is that right?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Absolutely. With Matt and Christina, they were not clients at the time. And there was an incident that Matt got involved with at work. It was a very minor, very, very minor use of force incident. Literally pushed a guy from standing down to seated position because he was not cooperating. And that was it. But it was a couple days after George Floyd. So tensions were very high, and that video went viral. Within hours, protesters were at their front door, and they were afraid. What were they going to do? Were they going to come back in the middle of the night? Were they going to throw a Molotov cocktail through the front window? Were they going to throw poison over the back fence to kill the family dog? They were terrified. They had to flee their house, never to return. They had to flee and to safety. And this is this is an officer who had been commended at work, had been received special assignments. He was on the list to go to the SWAT team, and so they were fearful, and they had to flee. There are also cases where judges have been targeted and harassed at their home as well. It's not just officers.
These headlines go on and on and on. But it's just, because what was it last year when the protesters were outside the U.S. Supreme Court justices' homes, and I'm like, that stuff's not private. I mean, that's crazy. And so when you think about it, if the Supreme Court isn't safe, police officers aren't safe. And also there have been I just heard this morning, in fact, I talked to you last night, but I just heard this morning that the FBI has been requested by LAPD because of these credible threats. And the thing about it, I want to note this, is that there's these homegrown domestic terrorists that hate cops, and they may have never even had a contact with a cop, but they see these things online, and now there's two sites that are promoting violence on police officers, and they may be knuckleheads, but someone will see that who is, maybe they're mentally ill, maybe they hate cops, maybe whatever, and they see that, and all it takes is one, and then they get this information on where you live and everything, and that's, to me, is really, really dangerous. So I can't stress enough the importance of your company and what you're doing. And so tell us, you have I think it's 5 points that I think are important for us to know why this is important to do.
Well, I think everybody, they need to do a self-evaluation. They need to do a risk assessment on themselves. And it starts with what information, if somebody were a stalker, if somebody were to be out there trying to collect information on you, what could they find out? What could they find out on social media? What could they find out on these people search sites? What information is available? So search for yourself like you are a stalker and you are going to bring harm to you or your family. So your social media, lock it down. Lock it down. Don't accept anybody that you don't absolutely 100% know is your friend. A lot of people use aliases for their social media. That's up to you. But, you've heard it before. Be careful what you post on social media. Just like be careful what you text. So search for yourself like a stalker would. Do that search that I mentioned earlier. Put your first and last name in quotes, the city you live in, and the word address. That will bring up sites. If you even want to get a little more specific, include in there, in quotes, your street address, your street number, and your street name. Put that in there as well. That will narrow the results down even further. Now, if you don't find yourself there, it doesn't mean you're not on those sites, but this is a good overview of, okay, what is out there. So if you are on any of those sites that you find, then take steps to remove your information from those sites. We offer ways to help. Officerprivacy.com, if you go there, we offer two services. One is where we do all the work for you. And when I say we, it's my team. I only hire current and former U.S.-based law enforcement officers to search for and remove your information. So we do not outsource anything. Nothing gets outsourced. Everything stays here in the U.S. And the only people that see your information are current, former law enforcement officers here. So that is a service that we provide. We go through, we remove your information from, I think we're up to 55 people search sites, plus 5 more data broker sites, and I can explain the difference and how I define people search sites and data broker sites if you'd like. But one service is where we do the work for you. When I started this company, I had software created so that we could do it quickly. So about 2 years ago, I decided that I didn't want price to be a barrier for anyone. So I make the software that I had created, I make that available for free. So you can use the very same software that we use to remove yourself. And access to that software is free for 2 weeks, which is plenty of time to go through and take yourself off those sites. If you want continued access to that software, it's just a few dollars a month. So, but the important thing is that it takes time. These sites will not remove your information right away. Some of them will, but most of them will take days or weeks to remove your information. So this is something you got to get ahead of. You got to get a jump on it. You got to do it before you need it. And so it's important to get started. And the sooner you start, the sooner you'll be off those sites, and then you can relax.
Okay. And so you offer this as a free service. Is it would you have to be at least a little bit computer savvy to kind of know what you're doing? Or, I consider myself fairly computer savvy as far as all this stuff goes. And I found that I had started going through there, and it just seemed like it was getting a little overwhelming. And I think I started doing it, and I saw some stuff was disappearing and stuff like that. But even for me, it was very, it was kind of daunting. It was a little bit overwhelming when you run your name, like you were saying with your search, and you see all the different sites that your name is on. That can be overwhelming.
Yeah, and Ken, when I started the company because I started hearing about stories about officers getting doxxed, and I have a love for the profession, and I didn't want that to happen. The first thing I did is I went through all these sites to take myself off, and it took me 6 hours. I'm like, 6 hours? And I'm, pretty good with a computer. I did forensics for 10 years, expert witness, all that stuff. I'm pretty good. It took me 6 hours. So that's when I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So I hired a programmer. We have that time down to 1 hour. So,
wow.
So in the software, you sign up, you're taken to a page where you create an account. It doesn't take very long. And then I show you a list of about 30 sites. And you click on a site. I have step-by-step instructions for each and every site. I have figured out ways to get exactly to the page that you need to go to remove your information. So there's a lot of shortcuts in there that will save you time. So we have step-by-step instructions. We have written instructions for each site. We have videos for most sites. And then we have a way to keep track of it all inside the software. So you don't need to have a bunch of Post-it notes or an Excel spreadsheet to try and remember which ones you need to go back to or anything like. We take care of that for you. It's all in the software. So you don't need to do it all at one sitting. You can do 3 sites, 5 sites, take a break, come back and do it later. We've tried to make it as easy as possible because we want to get as many officers off those sites.
Am I able to pull up that sample report to show what, let me see here. Let me get to this.
So what you're going to pull up is, and what I sent you last night is just a sample report that we send to clients. So those are clients who sign up for the premium service, which is where we do the work for you. So what happens when you sign up for the premium service and that is option 2 on the website. You sign up, you fill out one form. It takes about 1 minute. From there, we take care of everything. You don't have to do a thing after that. We take care of everything. You don't have to tell us which sites you're on and to verify it. You don't have to mail anything in or fax anything. You don't do anything. We do everything for you. And if you scroll down, you'll start seeing the sites that we include and the status. So green is good. It means we've already removed your information from that site. Orange is we are still working on it and we follow up. So the steps you take for the premium service, once you make the payment, you're taken to a page to send us your information, because we do need a little bit of information about you so that we can find your information. It takes about 1 minute. After that, within 48 hours and often within 12 hours, you're going to get your first report, because we get started working on it right away. You're going to get a report that looks very similar to this on the screen. It shows our progress in removing you from those sites. And then 10 to 14 days later, you're going to get another follow-up report, just showing our progress until you've been removed from all of those sites. So the premium service, it's super easy. We take care of everything for you. You don't have to do a thing after you sign up.
And I know I asked you this yesterday, is sometimes I'll see comments about removing your information. And some people come in and go, oh, that doesn't work. I tried it. It doesn't work. And what do you say to those kind of comments?
Yeah, I used to think that too. I used to think that, it's on the internet. There's nothing you can do about it. But I learned that there is something you can do about it. But you have to take the action to make it happen. It will not happen by itself. These sites will remove your information, but you need to go through the steps to ask them to do so. And unfortunately, these sites will relist your information. And that is why we offer the service that we will monitor these sites for you. And when we find that your information has been relisted, we will remove it again for you. So that is a service that we offer. And with all of our services, money back guarantee, no commitment, everything is just month to month. And, we are here for our clients. Every day, clients will reach out and have a question about either a website or, how they can help their family members or signing up their spouse, or, hey, I'm on this website, can you do anything about it? And we do the best we can to help them with what they need.
And as far as so a police officer, they get their information scrubbed from the net. What about their family members, their spouses, their grown children? What about them? Are they included in that scrubbing?
So if for the access to our quick removal software, that is the do-it-yourself software, you can add family members living with you at no additional charge. So family members living with you are free. Now with that, you will need to go through the sites and follow the procedures to remove your information for them, but that is included. Now, minors should not be on any of these sites. So you shouldn't have to be concerned about any minors being listed on these people search sites. And these are the sites that we're talking about to remove your information. For the premium service where we do the work for you, we all know that because we're all investigators, if you can't find the main person you're looking for, the first thing you do is look and try and find information about the spouse. Mm-hmm. So the spouse is often a softer target versus being a hard target. Once you've removed yourself from these sites, you've now become a hard target and more difficult to find. Not invisible, mm-hmm. but more difficult to find. So back to the spouse, we do offer a special deal for the spouse, and that is that we give them, we provide our services at half the cost of the initial sign-up fee, and then we immediately give them a credit in the amount that they just paid in the form of free monitoring moving forward. So for the spouse, after they make their initial removal fee, they're not charged again for 6 months.
It's funny. I don't know what made me think of this when, back in the 90s or something like that, when there was a mortgage company countrywide in California. I got a letter saying that there was a data breach, and my social security number and all this stuff was released to these crooks. And they said, because of this, we're offering you 2 years of free credit monitoring. And I took it, obviously. But this seems like it's along the same lines, is that you can scrub your information off the internet, and then they turn around and put it back up. So it takes monitoring to make sure that as it goes up, it comes down. Is that correct?
Yes, but I will let me clarify a little bit on. You've probably seen the commercials for the company that will monitor your credit and watch for identity theft. So that's different. So what they're doing is they are monitoring your credit accounts, right? Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, and they are looking for new accounts being created without your permission. So that is not what we do. And by the way, I prefer preventing the crime in the first place rather than responding to it after it happens. And the way to do that doesn't cost you money. You simply put a freeze on your credit accounts. It's free. It's free to unfreeze and freeze back again. That will go a long ways in preventing any new accounts from being created. So that's part one. Part two is, let's get ahead of this and minimize the information we have out there that somebody can find out about us, like our date of birth and our personal information, our home address. And let's get that off the net so that fewer people have access to it who would try and open an account in our name. So I prefer to get ahead of it, put some effort into being proactive instead of waiting for it to happen. And then, okay, they give me $1 million worth of coverage in case something bad happens. Okay, well, something bad happened first. And now I'm trying to recover from that. I'd rather just prevent it in the first place. So when you take yourself off these sites, that is a big step toward minimizing your footprint, essentially.
And my goal here today is to protect police officers, their spouses and family, like I say, adult children. And also because I run policebackground.net and the Police Applicant podcast for future police officers, those individuals that are going to apply to be police officers. I think, Pete, that if it's about being a police officer, you need to get your stuff off the internet now.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I think so. If you're listening to this and you're a police applicant, don't wait till your stuff's already up on it is up on the internet. It already is.
It likely is there already. And, just get ahead of it. Get it off. There is no good reason why any officer's information needs to be on any of those sites. And we can help you remove it.
And now, when we talk about families and how the internet interacts with itself, how all these sites interact together. For instance, Meta, I think that's the name. Meta owns Facebook. They also own Instagram, and they talk to each other. And tell us about when you post pictures. You think it's something? Oh, I'm privately on my Instagram, and I'm posting pictures of my family, my children, and stuff. Can that stuff somehow? Does it get out somewhere? You think you're private? How does that work?
The first day of our academy, they told us, look, don't do anything that you don't want on the front page of the local newspaper. I would extend that to social media. They're not private. They've got access on the back end to it. And just be really careful about what you post and just expect that it will be public at some time in the future.
Yeah. So I think now I've I see different things. I've seen it before where there's something is there something that they should do on their phones when they take pictures? Or there's some kind of Are they tags or something for location tags or something?
Yeah. So the default for when you take a picture is to put the geo coordinates of the of where you are on that, so that when you send it, that metadata, that data about data, the data in the background, it stays with it. Now, it used to be on social media accounts that the sites included that. So creepers would go to 12-year-old girls' social media pages. They would download the image and see where exactly they were when they took that picture. That has since been cleaned up so that that does not happen anymore. So as far as posting, for the most part, that does not happen anymore. Now, if you were to take a picture and your settings were allowing that to be captured and sent along with it, a regular text, it is going to be included along with it. So that does not get scrubbed.
You know, and I know we've talked about like adult children. You know, when your adult children, their information shows up once they start getting addresses and things like that. But juveniles, we haven't touched on that. There was a story, I think it was last year, on a TikTok, a young girl that was on TikTok. She was a teenager. She was, I don't know, maybe 16, 17 or something like that. Anyway, she had a stalker because she's one of these really influencer TikTokers and things like that. So anyway, she's well known. Her dad's a police officer. Some stalker was bothering her. He ends up going to her house, and the dad ends up killing the guy because they were threatened. Mm-hmm. This was a juvenile who doesn't have a credit report, doesn't have a mortgage, a home, and all that, and yet he found her home. And so your teens, your kids, we have to be mindful of what they're doing on social media because they can find your information. There was an influencer of some kind up in Seattle last week or the week before. She was getting stalked. She blocked him, did all this stuff. He went up to Seattle last week and killed her and her husband. He found her address, and so these people, crazy people can get this information, and these are just a couple of examples. But I wanted to focus on was this was a young girl, a teenager, and they found he found her address. How does that happen?
Well, so I am not familiar with that case, but there are sites where you can take your social media username and search by that to find other social media accounts you have. And so you would do that just like you would any other investigation. You start with a little bit of information and you use different search engines. As you know, Google, you can do a reverse image search on it.
Oh.
So
how do you do that?
Oh, you just take a screenshot of it, you upload it right to Google. There's TinEye, there's Google, there's other sites where you you simply just have a local picture of it and upload it to to Google or TinEye or others, and they will look for similar matches all through the internet. So you have images, you have social media profiles, and who knows what else she was sharing. If she did share what school she went to, okay, that narrows down where she's where she is. All right, now I know a city. And then maybe at one point she mentioned her mom's first name, or her sister, or her adult sister. Okay, well, now we have a name and a city. All right, now once we have a name and a city, now we can narrow down. Maybe she took a picture of herself in front of her house as she's pulling up to her house. Okay, now I know kind of what the house looks like. All right, now I have some potential addresses where this person could live. And so now I go to Google Maps, go down to Street View or Bing Street Side or Apple Look Around, any mapping program, and I can see exactly what the front of their house looks like. All right, is that a match? Yep, that looks like it. Okay, now I've got my house. I mean, and these things literally take as long as it's taken me to explain what I just did there. And that's how easy it is to find someone. So that's why it's so important to I mean, look, I use social media as marketing. We advertise on social media to let people know about our services and to, bring in new customers. But personally, I'm not a big fan of social media. And I would say if you are going to have a social media account, you got to lock it down. Don't allow anybody that you absolutely 100% know is a friend of yours. Don't let them in. Just keep it private. And but I know that's not practical because social media does have some redeeming value, and but just be mindful. And it's not only you; it's your spouse. And
Right.
sometimes that's a tough conversation to have with what they're posting. And are they as mindful as you?
Yeah, and so just be mindful of your children because kids, they'll just go out there and go, here I am video and I'm downtown Seattle, or I am at we went to the park, I'm at the beach, and blah blah, and they start stringing all these sites together. And the thing is, in 2023, you don't need a computer science degree. The internet does it all for you. And I just think that with this data breach from LAPD, that it's like I've said before, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Now this information's out. It's been out since September. They had since September to March 2023. That's how long it took them to get all this stuff together and do. And that stuff is just like, it's been disseminated to all these groups and all these places, and they can go, you have to take the department or the union is suing, and they've told Twitter and Google, take these sites down and blah blah blah. Just because you take those sites down, it's still going to be out there. And so unfortunately, the police department put a notice out with suggestions. Now that this has happened, here's how we think you should protect yourself. And one of their suggestions is that the officers should pay to have their information removed from the internet. So you got 9,200 officers that are kind of on their own. And so the reason I wanted to do this, because I think we should be proactive, let people know about your services. It's free, and then there's you can upgrade. But either way, get it done.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The sooner the better. You want to make yourself a hard target, and you want somebody searching for you to get frustrated and move on. You want them to be confused.
Yeah.
Is that their address? If I've often said like we can't make you invisible, right? Nobody can make you invisible. You're always going to be out there. Your name is always going to be out there. You're going to be out there on a salary database. Your name is going to be out there on this site. Your name is going to be on the social media, your department's social media. Maybe you made a big drug bust. Maybe you got a promotion. Your name is always going to be out there. The property where you live is always going to be out there. It's always going to be out there on Realtor.com, Redfin, and Zillow. Property is always going to be out there. But right now, there's a connection between your real name and your real address. And the connection is made on these people search sites like White Pages, Been Verified, Spokeo, My Life. They make that connection. Our goal is to break that connection so that people can't identify your home address so they can bring harm to you and your family. Right? We focus on your home address. We want you to be comfortable at your house when you're at home with your family, and we want your family to feel safe while you are at work. So that's why we focus on the sites that are exposing your home address. And I know I mentioned earlier, like people search sites and data broker sites. Can I go into those and kind of explain how I define those differently?
Yeah.
So people search sites. These are sites that we've already mentioned before, whitepages.com, fast people search, cluster maps, these sites that are exposing your information. So I consider, and I kind of define those as just people search sites because you are using those sites to search for people. Then you have the data broker sites, and we're familiar with big data, right? Big data is collecting our information, and that's why we see it. We're on our computer and we search for something, then we go to another site and all of a sudden we see an ad for a similar product. So we're familiar with big data collecting all this information on us. But there's the marketing side of it, and then there's the side that I deal with. These big data brokers are the ones that collect your information and they sell it to the people search sites that show it. So it's almost like you have a field of weeds. And if you take a lawnmower to the bunch of weeds, it's going to trim them down, but the roots are still going to be there. So the people search sites are like the weeds that you can see. And it's important to take your information off because you don't want that information to be exposed. But what's really important also is to pull the weed out by the root. And the way to do that is to get yourself off of the data broker sites. And those data broker sites, if you sign up for our service to have us remove your information, or if you sign up to use the software yourself, we have links to those as well. And they're up on the screen there, but these are Axiom, Epsilon, LexisNexis, Oracle, and those sites are the ones that will, you want to take yourself off of those as well, because those are the ones that sell your data, to collect your data and then sell it to the other sites. So we do that, and that's really important to do.
Just as an aside, so these are the big players here up on the screen.
For those just listening, that I include here, and I want to share with everyone the top 5 people search sites based on web traffic, and those are whitepages.com, Spokeo, True People Search, Been Verified, and Fast People Search. Those are the top 5 sites. I also included in here what I call the most impactful. So if you go to peopleconnect.com and complete the opt-out steps, you'll actually be removed from 13 other people search sites. And the most popular ones in there that you may have heard of are Instant Checkmate, Truth Finder. So those are the most common ones there. But peopleconnect.com is a very impactful site to remove yourself from.
Now, what's this one you say immediate gratification?
So some sites take days or weeks to remove your information. I share with everyone what we found based on our research, 4 sites that will remove your information right away. And actually there's 5 sites, and those are Glad I Know, Nuber, Radaris, Spy Dialer, and That's Them. So those are sites that will remove your information right away. So those are pretty important to go through as well. And by the way, if somebody signs up to use our free software, I have all of this information in a tips and tricks document that we make available for free for those who sign up to use the software. For those who sign up for our service where we do the work for them, we do all the work. We take you off of all these sites, the data broker sites, the people search sites. We take care of everything for you. You don't have to do anything. You fill out one form, we take care of the rest.
Very cool. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm going to put the link in the show notes that this is going to be also on YouTube. So you'll be able to see the actual graphics that we're putting up and things like that. So YouTube is where the actual video interview will be. But just to get the word out there, I'm going to be putting it in both places. And so the website is officerprivacy.com. And let me see here, trying to get my screen back. There we go. And so just to recap, if you're interested, and I don't know any police officer that would not be interested in this service, there's 2 tiers, there's a couple different ways to do it. Go to officerprivacy.com. No matter what, go to officerprivacy.com. They offer a free service that you can use their software, and you can tackle it yourself for a more professional approach to make sure it's done right, and also ongoing maintenance of your privacy. There's also a pay package you can get as well. I just think this is so insightful. It's so needed right now, Pete, for just the LAPD family. There's 9,300 officers, and then there are their families that need protection from these knuckleheads that are out there. And it's a shame that this information is so easily available to anybody that just types in a name. And now with this information release, those names are now available, to anybody. And so that's a shame. So I want to thank you for being here. In closing, is there any closing remarks that you would like to mention to folks?
Yeah, just thank you, Ken. I appreciate it. And just two things. One is, while my primary audience are law enforcement officers, you don't need to be a law enforcement officer to sign up. Number one. And number two is, I also wrote an ebook, which is free. You can sign it. You can find it on my site. We have a link there. It's 56 pages. I will tell you that many ebooks are nothing but sales pitches. This is not the case with our ebook. It's 56 pages full of links and tips and tricks on becoming more private and more secure. And it is very popular, and it's free. So please check it out. And thank you so much, Ken. I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope to get this out very shortly. And other than that, if you need to get a hold of anybody at officerprivacy.com, they also have a form on their website that you can make contact with them. And there is a phone number as well that someone will get back with you. Is that correct?
100%. 100%.
What's that phone number?
What's our phone number? Oh, 833-320-3234.
Okay. All right. And thank you, guys. We'll get this out to you as soon as possible. And if you need information, definitely you can get a hold of me. I can get a hold of Pete if there's any questions that aren't answered, but definitely get a hold of them. And we are out of here.
Thanks for listening to the Police Applicant Podcast. We are the premier police background prep site in the U.S. and Canada. For more information on scheduling your police background consultation, go to policebackground.net. Also, please leave us a review on iTunes.